Hello there, it's Fred Wagner, Papa's Painting Tips. I'm just doing a quick, short tutorial video here today on setting up tiger patterns. You saw a little earlier when I was working on the eyes. Well, I took a little hiatus for a while. You know, Christmas season, what do you want? My mind is too many places at once anymore. What I wanted to show you was a little quick brief video here on how to set up the markings on the tiger, how to get in your first layer of fur with scratching. So I've got my custom Micron SB. I've got ETAC EFX paint in the cup. And the color I'm using is Payne's Gray at the moment. And I'm just laying in a really light layer of Payne's Gray on the markings and a little bit into the fur where I know. So I've got my pressure set at 35 psi, and this is straight EFX paint. There's no dilution in it, dilution. If you notice how I'm holding that trigger, I got my finger overlapped. This is just a stock trigger. I haven't invested in anything more than the stock trigger yet. And I'm just going through here making the little marks. It really doesn't have to be precise, but because each tiger, his markings are different. There's no two the same. And it really has to do with the coloring under the fur on the skin. They relate to the markings. So I'm just going around trying to see my example here so I don't make a huge mistake. Some of my drawings I did not follow accurately. So my bad on that. Okay, see, this comes up. But I'm just laying these in real loose. And then I've got a marking under here that comes off of that. It's kind of a triangle shape. And I put a little guidelines to show me where it goes up into an area or down. This is his ear. His ear comes down into here. This is... Alright, see, I even made a mistake there, but that's okay. That's no big deal. Anyways, this is the marking I'm looking at on my reference. It kind of trails down here. And this marking actually comes up alongside the ear like this. You might think this is a huge boo-boo. It's not a big to-do, not a big mistake at all. Just adding a little depth behind that one. Paying attention to where my paint is flowing. A couple dagger strokes there, just to get a little more depth into that ear. And he's got a little heavier on the edge of that ear. I braced my finger up against the board a lot of times to steady my hand. And at 58 years old, my hand is not solid, rock solid anymore. And here I'm not putting a lot of details yet. I'm just getting the base set on my image. So anyways, back to the markings. I can see like this one here is kind of a V shape. It's a real little marking. So we'll do that. Then I got a lot of little reference points here. Just putting them in. Stuff like that. And around his eye, we're going to shadow in a little bit around the eye here, because we're going to lay in some white fur on top. The bottom edge is a little stronger. Just going to follow that around. But like I said, I just wanted to make a little short video. Not even a couple minutes, 5 minutes at the most. Just to show you how I work in these areas. And at this point, it's not really real detrimental to be exact. I put my crown, I'm working without my crown cap on there. I make sure I put it on safely. A lot of times I'll pull back the trigger on that. Now, what I do in this case scenario, I've got my Euro tool. It's Euro tool, Germany. It's got a fiberglass tip in there, and you push on this end. You can extend that fiberglass tip. You don't want it too far out, especially when you're working on small details, because you want the bristles to be stiff. And this is all little fibers all packed in, and that holds it together. I worked a lot on the edge, so what I'll do, and I'm sorry if this is wiggling a lot, but I'll come in here on my reference. I'll check my reference, make sure I got my iPad here. This is terrible the way I've got it set up right now, just to work on this. All right, that's a pretty good little stand there I just invented. How silly of me. Anyways, let's get you guys a little situated. Let's zoom in a little bit, hopefully. Yeah. And we'll work on these markings in here for the moment. And what I'm doing on my reference, I'm looking at where the lines come up, how far, or for the lines. You're making lines, but it's to represent the fur. Now, the fur pattern on the tiger grows in from the eye, okay, and begins to turn this way, up around the eye socket, up onto the forehead, and out to the ear, okay? It grows in a circular pattern. And I take my Euro tool, mostly on the edge, with a little bit of pressure, and I start pulling these little details of fur up into that. And I can also, where I've got overspray, I allowed a lot of overspray on this because there's going to be fur in this area that's brown, but underneath that are shadows. So as you can see, I'm pulling lines. Let's see if I can get it in there. It's not real sharp. I had hoped it would be clearer video. But anyways, see how I'm pulling short little strokes into that. Now the top side of the marking, there's more black overlapping into the color area because the layer of fur goes that direction. So we use even shorter strokes to create that line, like so. Let's back out a little bit. You can see it'll be a little sharper. I just figured I would do a couple minutes. Okay. Now, what we can do is in some of these markings, if you've got enough detail, you can pull some of these marks up into, because, you know, it's not a solid chunk of fur. There is fur going through it. And what we can do is we can pull these some. You don't have to do a lot. No need for all that. Not on this small of a drawing. If I was doing a larger scale painting, I'd be more intricate. Now you see how I've made lines. I can't see because my own glasses, I'm too close. But you can see I made some lines in here on that marking because it's a larger marking, so you're going to notice it more. And then we'll do a couple into here. You can even pull some fur through. We'll do that, and we'll come down on this marking. There's some lines, it's a little bit longer, keeping in mind that direction, like I said, that circular motion of the fur. This is more straight up, going up the forehead, and then over here it begins to turn. And then over on this marking here, we got a little more, like I said, the opposite side, the black comes over the top of that brown, so we don't want long marks coming down into it. That wouldn't look correct. Now we got a little separation here, so we're going to pull up and then shorter strokes down below it because of the direction that is flowing on the fur. Over here, we'll do a few of those smaller marks inside that marking. All right, and then we'll do the same thing up here. We'll put a, sorry, that's the trucks going around the road next to my house. But anyways, we'll pull those up into there. Okay, same down here. We'll look at this pattern. We'll get this a little more accurate. Same thing. All right. Now what I do is I'll take my Payne's Gray and I will go to those markings that I just put in the middle. I don't want them. I'll test my paint, make sure it's flowing. Then I'll just mist over the top of the center ones. All right, like I did in there. And it'll knock those whiter lines back a little. Same up in here. I'm just dusting over these with a little bit of spray, not a lot, just to knock them back. All right. And because we're hitting the edges, some of these ones that are coming up from below, we will re-emphasize those after this. So we'll do that. Now we'll come back in with our Euro tool. Once again, we don't have to do a lot of these. Like I said, we're going to re-emphasize a few of these. These are going to get brown over them also. And we'll just bring these back up again. Okay, same over here. Let's make one tuft of fur coming longer. Let's divide this one. Okay, and we'll do the same in here. But it was mainly in here I wanted to show you how I work in here. Now this is the last thing I do when I do a marking. And I'll do this throughout the whole painting, working back and forth. If I'm doing in a color area, I'll do the opposite with color. Right. Then I'll take this side, I'm going to pull up just a few individual dagger strokes. Really fine ones. And then fade the bottom of them. Just to detail that. You gotta be careful how long you make your dagger strokes because the fur in this area is not real long. Just putting a couple spots in there. And this one here, we will Not working at an ideal angle. This marked part is a little bit thicker right there. Okay. And over here we'll do a little more definition. Pulling the strokes up. And then we can also pull down on the bottom of that. Just a little bit. Not a lot. You don't need a lot. Your eye will create the depth on its own in the details. And then we'll pull some of these up, keeping in mind the direction of the fur. All right, we're getting, the longer you make these strokes, the longer the fur will appear. And on the forehead right in here, it's not real long. It's longer than it is in the center of the nose down here, but not up here. So we can be a little more deliberate with our strokes here. Same over here, we're going to put a little definition into this, pulling lightly. Okay, now we can make a couple more of the more pronounced ones inside there. Just pull them back up just a tiny bit, and we're going to mist back again. And what it'll do, being this is a transparent base, transparent paint that I'm working with, I think I got a little clog going on here. It'll darken what's already down there and then layer up on top of it, creating several different layers of paint. And it darkens where there's already paint. And you get layers, almost like if you're working with pastels. You layer the pastels to create your color and your depth. Well, you're doing the same thing in here. So I didn't cover it completely. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got a couple light marks that are gray. You've got the darker black, and where I had a mark before now is a mid-tone gray. So it creates that depth in the fur. All right, let's see if I can zoom in on it a little bit. But you can see how it's got several different layers inside this marking. But if you come out, it looks like a solid black from this distance. But truthfully, you've got layers, so that way if you're looking up on that painting real close, you'll see all this detail. When you're back, your eye blends. If you're working on a larger, you'll have a lot more freedom of mistakes within it. So anyways, I just thought that would help you a little bit if you're working on this. And you can translate this, what I've just showed you, into when you're working on the brown and tan and yellow areas. Layering that fur, and then at the very end, what you would do is, like over in here, you can see I've put some brown already, and I've got my black markings. Now there are some real strong black markings, so we're gonna go in and just pull out just in between layers of fur. Just and what I'm doing is dagger strokes, and that'll give your definition of your fur. You don't, it might not be Payne's gray or that you're working with. You might be doing the same thing with brown per se, but it just happens he's got two markings here that are a little bit darker, closer to the black, so we're just pulling those out. But if it were a brown area, I'd be working with the brown in there to do the same thing. Same in here. There's a few heavier in this area, creating that illusion of depth. Because we're working on a 2D surface, but we're trying to give the illusion of a 3D image. Who knows, someday we'll paint in 3D. Okay, well, I hope that helps you a little bit in your pursuit of doing animal portraits with the airbrush. And God bless. Have a good day. And I will try to get more for you in the future. Take care. And by the way, Happy New Year's. Being it's 2020 now, into a new year, waiting on Christ's return. Amen to that. Okay, God bless. Have a good day.